Hi, my name is Jonas. Today it's time for another entry in the Music Like We're Back in the 90s series. This time we go for early 90s rave. Now before everybody starts lighting up the comment section, I'll give you the definition of what rave means to me. Rave is music that is played at a rave party. This could have been basically anything because back in the days the scene wasn't split up in a million subgenres yet. I go for a breakbeat, happy hardcore, early Prodigy kind of style just because it's a lot of fun to create a track like that. If there's one unifying factor in music of this time, it's the sampler. In the late 80s, early 90s, these were finally becoming affordable and it really transformed the way music was made. I sold my sampler more than 15 years ago, but I'm going to use the sampler track in Cubase in vintage mode to emulate the samplers of those days. Let's start with creating a classic rave stab. This basically can be any chord sampled and put across the keyboard. I'll use the M1 because that certainly was one of the synths you would find in many studios at the time. I'm going to play a simple major chord with the organ patch. Put it in the sampler, layer it across the keyboard, and we're there. It works even better if you play it in octaves. For a track today, I went for this pattern. Now some breaks. This means more sampling, of course. The first one is the classic Amen break. This is the original. I chopped it up and put it in the sampler. And to match the tempo, I pitch shifted it instead of time stretching. This gives it a nice lo-fi, gritty, big sound. Then it's just a matter of playing with it a little bit to come up with a cool break. I used another instance of the Amen break, but this time I did time stretch it, but I play it high across the keyboard. This creates a very cool metallic effect and it's something you hear in a lot of early rave and jungle tracks. The second break I lifted from a Lionel Richie record. Once again, I pitch shifted it to match the tempo and I'll add it on top of the other beats so things start moving in a very nice way in all kinds of directions. Gives this a lot of energy. Now we need some bass. In the early 90s, classic monosynths like the MS-20 would have been dirt cheap because everybody wanted workstations and samplers. So I'm going to put myself in the shoes of an imaginary early rave producer who happens to come across an old MS-20 and thinks, why shouldn't I try to use it? So I created a couple of bass sounds and, of course, put them in the sampler. The first one I came up with was this nice sub bass sound, sampled it so that it's really dirty, and used it to accent the breakbeats. The second MS-20 sound I created is this kind of rave alarm sound. Once again, I sampled this and it's great to grab attention and accent the first beat every couple of bars. Of course, I put it in the sampler again because that's what we would have done back in the 90s because the old MS-20 didn't have any MIDI, so it wouldn't be very practical to hit that note every time. Just put it in the sampler and play it. Makes it even more dirty than it already was, and it sounds like this. Now you have the breaks going, it's time to hype it up some more. I've been digging through my old 90s samples and I found this old classic rap sample.
Drum beats go like this.
Once again, throw it in the sampler and play around with it a little bit.
Drum beats go like this. Drum beats go like this. Drum beats go like this.
If you play it pitched up, you get this instant happy hardcore rave raps. Put it together with the rest and lots of energy. I'm still going to throw in a little bit of synth work. I don't have it available, but probably back in the days you would find a Yamaha TX-A1Z in a lot of studios. Most of the time it was used for lately bass, but if you get a little bit more creative, you can program your own bass sounds on it, and they have this very nice, gritty, old school vibe to them. I don't have the TX-A1Z at hand, but I have another 4-op synthesizer. This time I opted to use the Waslio FM, and I created this sound. It's going to be one of the other elements in the track, just to have some variation. To really finish it all up, let's add another hook. I played a major chord on the M1 and sampled it. Of course, I sampled it. And then you can play around with it a little bit to get this very typical 90s rave sounds. Let's add some vocals to this. I once again was digging through my old 90s samples and found this short vocal. Let's put it across the keyboard and play with it. A funny thing is that these kind of vocal tricks came back into fashion years ago. I think Afrojack started doing it, Afrojack and Layback Luke and such. And it became a thing in pop music. So actually it sounds a lot more modern than it actually is. For me, this will always be the sound of the rave 90s. And the final touch is to load up the piano 8 patch from the Korg M1 and play a fast rave piano. Let's put these 3 elements together. Nostalgia is at 100% now. And now all that is left is put all these elements together in a nice energetic arrangement. Back in those days, of course, you didn't have all kinds of cool plugins to do all kinds of interesting effects and transitions and whatever, but that didn't hold anyone back. It's just a matter of being creative with your sampler, pitch things, chop up things, and you can do a lot of cool things that are actually the base of things we still hear nowadays in lots of new tracks. Let's check out the final result.